Hello and welcome to Culture Shark, a live stream about all things pop culture. I'm Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
I started reading what your thing said as I'm halfway through the intro and got distracted there, but here we go. Today we are talking about my favorite Disney character, Scrooge McDuck. And many of you all know Scrooge McDuck from one of two things, either the Mickey Christmas Carol or DuckTales.
I was going to say DuckTales or DuckTales.
Yeah, Mickey Christmas Carol was my intro to the character when I was a kid, and then because he plays Ebenezer Scrooge in that,
Yeah.
and then the two Ducktales attempts.
I'll throw in a third one or a fourth one if we're considering both DuckTales. Because when I was growing up, House of Mouse was a big thing, unlike Disney and Toon Disney. And so he wasn't a regular, but I mean, really, nobody was a regular in House of Mouse. It was all guest stars every week.
Yeah.
And so I believe he made an appearance, and House of Mouse was probably my introduction to Scrooge.
Yeah, and so the original DuckTales was largely about this cranky old duck that went on adventures with his nephew's kids, Huey, Louie, and Dewey, and they'd go around globetrotting, having all kinds of crazy adventures.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because I've actually never been clear on that. So who the family tree of Scrooge, Donald, and the kids? What's going on there?
Let me find it real quick because your book has the family tree in it. Mine doesn't. Let's see, Scrooge McDuck family tree, and then I'll pull it up. But the sister Hortense that's in this story, she's Donald's mom, I believe.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let me pull it up because family tree is going backwards. It's a little confusing. Or at least not the way I'm used to reading family trees.
Yeah, that's why I was confused because I'm like, this is.
There's a lot of McDucks.
I am used to a family tree kind of looking like an NCAA bracket. Like that's a family tree to me.
Yeah, so you see Scrooge in the left third row, second character right there, and then next to him is Hortense, and she marries Quackmore Duck, and they have Donald and Della, and then Della and a mysterious guy they never revealed have Huey, Louie, and Dewey.
Okay, gotcha. So
I can try to zoom in a little bit more on that.
So Scrooge is their grandpa. So Scrooge is their grandpa.
No, he's like he's Donald's uncle. So
that's where it gets confusing.
Well, no, I mean, let's see. It would be like if Hortense is their grandmother, is the grandmother's brother.
Oh, so great uncle. Gotcha.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy family tree. There's a lot of duck lore, as we will see here. So most people don't know that Scrooge has been around since 1947, and he was first appeared in the comics created by Carl Barks, and Carl Barks wrote the Donald Duck comics.
I just want to point out Carl Barks sound. You know how like the Marvel universe has like the animal universe where it's like, oh, this is the Green Gobbler and this is Spider Ham.
Yeah.
Carl Barks sounds like Karl Marx, but as a dog in that universe.
Yeah. What you may not know is the Donald Duck comics are huge in Europe. Like it is like one of their most popular comic books over there.
I mean, honestly, you tell me that it tracks definitely. I can definitely see that.
But you know, they introduced Scrooge McDuck as a one-off character, and they kept bringing him back. It became so popular that he got his own series, and he appeared in a couple of Disney shorts before Mickey Christmas Carol, but that was they had some shorts just talking about money management, and he was on those. But for the most part, Mickey's Christmas Carol was his big animated debut.
So, what we're reading today initially really the first issue releases in 92. Where does DuckTales fall on this?
So DuckTales, when did DuckTales premiere? The original DuckTales premiere. 87.
Okay.
So when Carl Barks, left the book, I'm not sure if he died or if he left the book before he died. I'm not sure, but Don Rosa was one of the later writers, and Carl would mention things like, "Oh, at this date Scrooge did this. This date Scrooge did that." So Don compiled all those dates and put them in order and created this story, and kind of said, "Okay, here's the life and times of Scrooge McDuck," and fleshed it out. This is 12 issues. There are more issues that are not in the complete collection. There's like side stories, like between this issue and this issue. This is what he's doing.
Which I think is funny because I mean this whole book is side stories. I mean this guy Scrooge McDuck did every side quest,
Yeah, and it's so this is covers from 1877 to 1947 is what the 12 issues cover. And there's an unofficial Don Rosa timeline he has of the date Scrooge was born and the date Scrooge dies.
I saw that.
And so 1947, if you want to think about that, is when DuckTales starts. So this book goes right up to when DuckTales starts after these stories.
So this is Rogue One, the Star Wars story.
Kinda, yeah. This is the backstory of Scrooge McDuck, and it reads a lot like he is from Scotland, but he's almost like a American folk story, like legends, like this is a folk hero.
I thought this read a lot like Spider-Man Life Story.
Sure, yeah.
This reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Life Story.
Yeah. So we're talking about the first 6 issues. So I'm going to pull up the issue 1 cover. And this one is 1877 through 1880. And this talks about Scrooge as a child and how the McDucks were once very wealthy and they kind of lost everything. And so his dad is teaching him about hard work, and he has him make money by cleaning people's boots, and he finds the guy with the muddiest boots possible and makes Scrooge clean those, and that's how he earns his number 1 dime. If you remember on DuckTales, number 1 dime was a big deal. So this talks about how he makes his first dime.
Which isn't that kind of played as if the guy's ripping him off because it's an American dime?
Yeah. All throughout these, Scrooge is kind of learning lessons, and he's meeting these larger-than-life famous people throughout history. And they're all kind of teaching him different lessons. Sometimes they're good lessons, sometimes they're bad lessons. We get in the second half, there'll be more bad lessons that he's learning.
Now, when you say bad lessons, they they are good lessons. It's just a negative way to learn them.
Well, I think this story, when you get overall, is about the thrill of adventure and chasing your dreams. And if you want to be rich, you can be rich, or you got to work for it. You don't just wake up. I mean, some people wake up rich, but you have to chase after it. And it's kind of, they say that the ending is not the real treasure. It's the adventure along the way. But we're gonna get to a point though where Scrooge becomes a cranky old man, and he's not there yet. and you'll see why he becomes this cranky old man when he starts making some decisions that are not the best. And we'll also see towards the end when Donald comes into his life and the nephews that if you start going down the wrong path, you don't have to stay on the wrong path. There's redemption. You can be that adventurer again. You can chase those dreams again. And we'll get there though. But yeah.
What if that's the ending to One Piece?
They start a new adventure.
Yeah.
I'm down for it.
No. You mentioned it's like it's not about the treasure; it's about the adventure along the way. Well, what if Luffy just becomes like the anime Scrooge McDuck, and then in like 20, 30 years they do like a DuckTales where it's like that's Great Uncle Luffy, and then you got 3 miniature Luffys that all wear different colors and they got different fruits that they ate, so they have different powers. I'm pitching this, and it's a great idea.
So I will say that the second DuckTales series, the recent one, does borrow a lot from this book. They will bring in characters from this series.
I noticed that a lot.
Yeah.
Because here's the so I was not a DuckTales person until the reboot. I watched a lot of Goof Troop. I feel like DuckTales and Goof Troop are kind of like a McDonald's Burger King situation, and so I was watching Goof Troop. So a lot of my DuckTales knowledge comes from newer stuff, and so this is the one time where I went into something that you recommended, and it's like, wait a second, I recognize a lot of this.
Yeah.
This is not G.I. Joe.
Yeah. And you got to think DuckTales came out in '87, so I was 8 when this came when it came out. So DuckTales was a huge part of my childhood. And the DuckTales video game and the old Nintendo game and all that. So I mean, you can see why I'm like a huge fan of Scrooge McDuck. And this book kind of cements it. You really learn a lot about the character and everything he went through. Because we're at the end. We today we read the first 6 issues, and at the end of the 6 issues, he's still not rich. He's still going through the journey. And so, like I said, the first issue is about him getting the #1 dime and him leaving Scotland, and they set up the story about the what is it? The Hounds of Whiskerville, I think it is.
Whiskerville, yep.
Yeah, there's a castle that the McDucks had, and they lost because they got ran off because the what's the other family called? I can't remember.
I think
is it the Whiskervilles?
It's the Whiskervilles.
Okay, they run off the McDucks, and what the McDucks don't know is there is treasure hidden inside the castle. So if they would just, explore the castle, there are riches in the castle. So that's issue 1, and we meet Matilda and Hortense, which are Scrooge's sisters. They'll pop up later in the story also, and his mom and dad. And then Scrooge is leaving for America with nothing but a dime, a silver stopwatch, and golden dentures, the family heirlooms. So. Yeah, so I love this story because like I said, he starts out with nothing and he goes through a lot of he'll have small victories and he has huge setbacks over and over and over, and that is life.
Yeah, I almost think that this is a 12-issue mini, but like, especially the first issue. I think once you get into like the other issues, it's like, okay, we're obviously building to something. But that first issue, they could have just released that as a one shot, and it would have been fine. It's not like it's so self-contained that this is Scrooge growing up, and whenever he goes to America, and as he goes off to America, that would be the end of that story. So like, I think that, like, especially that first issue really works as a one shot. I think once you get into like issues 2, 3, 4, all that, we're obviously um, I'm not gonna say building to something, but we're definitely like, okay, so this like we're now this is the rest of his life up until the series.
Yeah, so that was the first part, Last of the Clan McDuck. Now we're getting into the Master of the Mississippi. And one of the things I want to point out is, and I was trying to find some panels showing this. There's so many jokes going on in the background constantly. So little me, fun little, like if you just watch the background characters, there's always something going on in the background. And I think Don Rosa's kind of a master of that, of the comic stripping.
I will have to be on the lookout for that because I actually am not sure what you're talking about. So I mean, this is my first time reading through it, so
I noticed jokes. I've read this book, like 5 or 6 times. I noticed jokes this time that I've never noticed before. So I mean, they are there. So like, while Scrooge is shining the guy's boot, if you watch his sister's doing other stuff in the backgrounds and stuff. Or like this issue here where they get to Louisville, just watching the gambling thing. If you watch the waitress, she's trying to steal his chips. He grabs her arm and twists it, and there's a guy asleep under the table. He jumps up on the table, smacks the table, wakes up the guy underneath. Then that guy is crawling out. He's trying to reach up and grab the chips. You see him all throughout the panels trying to grab the chips, and then the waitress comes back. Her arm's now bandaged from where he twisted it earlier. And let's see what else. And then he smacks the guy's hand that's reaching up from underneath the table that he woke up, and you see him under there cradling his hand. So there's all these little, if you're just paying attention to Scrooge and his was his uncle, I think, or there's one story going on, but then there's other stuff going on in the background. And so that's like constantly happening in all the panels.
You know what that you mentioned it like that. You know what that really reminds me of?
What's that?
And I almost have to like it's Dan Harmon, so like this has to be intentional. Like this has to be a reference. I just think it's insane with who the character is.
Oh, you're talking about that Community episode where Abed has a whole separate adventure in the background?
It's no, but that's the thing. It's not a whole episode. It's a is it a whole? Oh wait, no. I think
it is one episode.
It is one episode. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And fun fact, Danny Pudi would go on to play Huey, I think, in the new DuckTales.
Yeah. So chapter 2 takes place in Louisville, which is, I spent a lot of time there. You were born there.
Yep.
So we know a lot about riverboats and all this. So
yep.
1880 through 1882 is where this is in the Master of the Mississippi. And one of the fun things about this is his uncle Angus Pothole McDuck. He writes about this, and then you see that book pop out through the whole rest of the series. People reading those stories. Another background gag that you'll see throughout the series.
Okay, that's interesting. So him writing all this down, and especially because it's his uncle, I got a Bilbo Baggins vibe from him.
Well, I think it's more of a Mark Twain stuff going on here.
Oh,
with the riverboats and him writing stories and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of Mark Twain gags in this.
Definitely, that makes sense. I guess it was definitely more me. Like I had just seen Fellowship again with some friends a couple weeks ago, so I had that on the mind. And it's like, oh, it's Uncle Bilbo writing his book, and so it's Uncle Angus writing his book.
Mm-hmm. And we meet Ratchet Gearloose, which is Gyro Gearloose's, I guess, his dad or grandfather or something. And so, if you watch DuckTales, Gyro's a big part of that. So we also meet the Beagle Boys in this, and they'll be, of course, recurring villains throughout this and throughout DuckTales. So
yep.
But yeah, this is a fun story about trying to find the lost treasure, and they have to have kind of like a riverboat race, and Scrooge has to outsmart the Beagle Boys, and one of the recurring themes of Scrooge is you got to be smarter than the Smarties and sharper than the Sharpies, and that is a lot of times how Scrooge survives is you just got to outsmart your opponents. You don't have to work harder than them. You just got to outsmart them. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna go beat by beat on this. We're just kind of hit the main themes on these. So at the end of this, Scrooge ends up. I think he ends up the steamboat captain, or he eventually gets the ship. But then railroads kind of put that out of business at the end. So now he is moving onwards out west in part 3.
Well, and Angus gives him $1 too.
Yeah. Yep. And then I think he makes him spend it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see a lot. He gets the money, then he loses the money over and over and over. Part 3 is where we start seeing him start meeting some major historical figures, and this one it's Theodore Roosevelt that he meets up with, and I think we see him again in the second half.
Let me know if you also kind of got this vibe from this book, because of all the people that he's met in the first 6 issues. And I mean, I kind of spoiled myself because I wanted to do a little bit of research before coming into this, and like just the amount of people he will meet. This almost has like a like Disney's Forrest Gump vibe.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Certainly that came out around the same time, but again, Don is drawing from all these mentions in the comics and stuff. So
yeah, I'm not saying that I'm pretty sure this came up before Forrest Gump. I'm just saying like this is a story about the life story of a character who was just, he was in the background of everything. He was there.
yeah, and that's why I say it's kind of America folklore. Like this larger than life character was here and all this, and you'll start seeing that he starts getting names associated with him. So Master of the Mississippi, the Buckaroo of the Badland, the Cowboy Captain of the Cuddy. Well, that's one of the side stories. Sorry. Let's see. Raider of Copper Hill, the Terror of Transvaal. His legend starts to grow more and more as you hear him doing all these things. And it's kind of like Secondhand Lions also, where his uncles are telling all these stories. And you're like, you didn't do that. What are you talking about? And then you find out, oh no, he did do all this. He did all this and more.
You mentioned that, and it's like Michael Caine would have made a good voice for Scrooge at some point. Like we got David Tennant at least, but and it'll be funnier whenever David Tennant is older, is a grumpy, because David Tennant, he's happy, like in all the interviews, he's just such a bubbly guy. But I've seen him play so many grumpy people that I just want him to be a grumpy old man.
So here he learns how to be a cowboy, and he's kind of lying. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I've rode horses, I've done this, I've done that, and he kind of learns on the job as he goes.
I mean, is that not just getting the job because you lied on your resume? We've all done that. I'm Excel, like.
Yeah, your mic did something weird there, but yeah, I heard what you said.
Okay. Is it still
there you go? Yeah. Now you're back. Okay. So this is I think it's Frank and Jesse James. Oh no, this is the Viper Boys in this one. That's right. They steal a bull, and so Scrooge, and with the help of Theodore Roosevelt and some Indian chiefs. They have to track him down through the Badlands. And again, just a lot of fun artwork, fun story, and he's continuing to learn all this stuff. He's learning how to track people. He's learning all kinds of stuff. So the next chapter, Raider of Copper Hill. This one is 1883 through 1885. And if you know much about Scrooge, he's usually mining for gold and stuff. So this is kind of where that starts.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they find is copper. And they're all like, well, copper's worthless. No one wants copper. And then they discover that, oh, there's this thing called electricity. And this is where I noticed a joke that I had never caught before what they're setting up here.
Okay.
When he meets the guy and they don't know what electricity is, and there's an electric lamp on the wall. And he says, "Hey, will you light that lamp?" And he tries to light it, and he breaks the bulb because they don't know what a light bulb is.
That's funny.
And well, that's not the joke yet,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, here, yeah, not, wind the knob or whatever." And he ends up getting electrocuted.
Yeah.
And the owner says, "Oh no, the electricity is going to spill out everywhere. Grab a mop." So if you watch the guy with the mop, he's mopping up the floor, and then when he pours it out the window, the cat outside gets electrocuted by the electricity they're pouring out. And I had never noticed the cat getting electrocuted in the bottom panel.
This book is so dense. Like,
it's great. It is great. Yeah. So I wish I could have found that so I could have showed it on screen, but it's so funny that because like I said, I've read this 5 or 6 times. I've never got what's wrong with the cat on the last page, but he's mopping up electricity, pours it out the window, the cat gets electrocuted. Very funny. So here we meet another famous character, Howard Rockerduck, which is like the Rockefellers or in real life. And we see his his bratty son, which is a lot of fun here. But he gets this copper mine. He's digging, and he doesn't know what he's doing. So Howard teaches him how to mine, and they find this very thin vein. And he's like, "Look, if your vein is closer to the surface, then the whole thing belongs to you. That whole copper mine over there that's on the other guy's property, that'll belong to you if your vein's closer to the surface." And so they're trying to claim the deed, but now the whole neighborhood, the whole village is finding out about it, and there's like a race to get to who's going to be the property owner. And I think this is the first time we really see Scrooge as a fighter. And we'll start to see that quite a bit. And he's like a Popeye character, really. The way he'll just, take on all kinds of people. And he's super tough and you don't mess with Scrooge McDuck. Not in his youth. You do not mess with Scrooge McDuck. It reminds me a lot of stories my grandfather would tell, because my grandfather was like that, where he'd be like, "Oh yeah, my grandfather, it was a different time." He'd be like, "Oh, that guy's over there a communist. Let's go beat him up." And they would just get into street fights and stuff. Yeah, there's all kinds of stories about my grandfather, but it was a different time.
Not only was it a different time back then, but I think it was a different time back when you were a kid as well, because
I think you cut out there.
Oh.
Are you back?
Yeah. Hello. Yes.
Okay. You said it was a different time when I was a kid, and then you cut out.
Oh, gotcha. Because I was talking about this with my Nana and Papa on Monday, because we went over there for dinner, but they were talking about like how Grandpa Don, who fought World War II, would tell his kids like war stories, and I'm like, I think that's a different time because I I don't think kids nowadays are told stories about like, yeah, we used to beat up the commies back in the alleyway, or yeah, I used to throw grenades into trenches back in Normandy. Like, I don't think
Yeah, it was
stories of
a tougher generation, and I think that society it's a cycle. Society gets softer and softer and softer, and then something will happen, and your society toughens up again and take care of some business like we did in the 30s and 40s, or the society's going to collapse. One of the two. And so I think it's cyclical. We're on the down slope, and it's either got to tick back up or something's going to happen. So
apps. You heard it here first.
Say it again. You broke up again. We are losing Caleb. Are you there, Caleb? So anyhow, while we're waiting for Caleb to come back, I would encourage people to check out characters from the 30s and 40s. It's a different time, especially Popeye. I think people don't get why Popeye was so popular, but if you read his old comic strips, and he's just a bad dude, just fighting everybody. It's wild. So I definitely recommend the classic Popeye. If you like this, I would highly recommend the old Popeye comic strips. All right, so Caleb has dropped off. He's trying to fix his connection. He'll be right back. But yeah, this is the first time we really see Scrooge's temper, seeing him fight everybody here. And we'll definitely see that again here in a couple of chapters when we get to the Africa chapter. So he's trying to, he's fighting over the rights of the copper, and he ends up being the last man standing here. Caleb's back. Awesome.
Yes. I don't even remember what I was saying.
We were talking about grandfathers and telling war stories and how society has softened.
Right. And you said that either something's going to happen, we're going to toughen up, or society's going to collapse. And then I said, the collapse is coming. You heard it here first.
I'm just saying. Was it hard times bring good times, and good times bring soft time? Or there's some saying about
something like that.
Yeah. Then the soft times will bring the hard, or soft people will bring the hard times again, and yeah, I totally botched that. But anyhow, so Scrooge ends up winning the silver thing, but he has to return to Scotland because there's a family emergency. So he ends up selling it back to the owners of the copper mine and taking the I think it's $10,000, which is a lot of money back then, and going back to Scotland. And what you've also find out is this is where Scrooge starts to figure out that people treat you differently when you have money, and everybody in the village is his friend until he has money, and then everybody thinks he's an old, stingy, rich guy after that point. And so he sees how people will turn on you once you have money.
Which the reason I found that to be kind of interesting because it also could go the other way. Nobody pays attention to you, but then you get a lot of money, and now everybody wants to be your friend.
Yeah. But I think the fact that he's not sharing his money with them,
yes,
then oh yeah, you suck.
No, definitely.
Yeah. And the other fun thing is Rocker Duck he's actually the co-owner of the copper mine, and it's kind of like, why are you helping me lose your property here and what is, And he's kind of like, my son sucks. I don't want him to inherit all this money. And then he tells his son to go buy a horse whip, and the son doesn't realize the horse whip is for him. It's great. So we get to chapter 5, and there's quite. I think there's like 3 chapters where he returns. There's the first chapter in Scotland, and then there's gonna be this next one. Then I think there's a 3rd time he returns to Scotland. So let's see. Let me pull up that cover. So he returns home because they're about to lose the castle because they haven't been paying taxes on the castle, and the Whiskervilles don't want them to get the castle back. So the sheriff happens to be a Whiskerville, and so they're trying to prevent them from paying the money. But Scrooge has that check for $10,000, and so they are trying to stop him from paying it. There is a duel that happens in this, a night duel, and during the fight, we see every time this castle pops up that there are ghosts in the castle of old McDucks, and one of the ghosts tries to interfere, causing Scrooge to die earlier than he's supposed to. So Scrooge goes to heaven and meets all the other McDucks, and we find out they're all just as stingy with money and visors as he is. And it's just some fun dialogue about how they, they're all hypercritical of Scrooge until they find out he'll be the cheapest and richest and most miserly of all of them, and then they love him. So, and we find out because the ghost interfered is why he's here, and so they give him a second chance, but he has to figure it out. So he gets sent back to Earth.
Now, I want to say this. I assume that so he didn't come up with Rosa didn't come up with these dates, right?
I don't think so. I think Carl would just say stuff like, oh, and then back when I was mining in Africa, he would just mention something offhand.
Okay.
And so,
because the reason that I say this is because if I have any complaint about this 6 issues, I think this should be issue 6, and issue 6 should be issue 5. Because this issue just feel like if issue 6 is like the mid-season finale, or like the halfway point, this feels so much more like a halfway point than the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think you're supposed to read it all in one go. But I get what you're saying. This is kind of a midpoint, but also issue 6 is where we meet Flintheart Glomgold for the first time, who will become a major Scrooge villain.
Yeah.
So that's also a major thing here. One of the things that we see is Scrooge and the armor fighting, and I couldn't find the page, but somewhere he says, what did he say? I'm invincible or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but that is a reference to a Carl Barks comic where Donald Duck says that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, when I type in Donald Duck, I'm invincible. It's just pulling up Donald from Invincible, the series. No,
I would have thought it would. I would have thought it would have been Alan Cumming from GoldenEye. I am Boris. I'm invincible.
Yeah. I found it. Hold on, let me switch panels again. The joys of StreamYards. But this is a famous panel of Donald yelling, "I'm invincible, I'm doom itself." And somewhere in this, Scrooge says something very similar.
It kind of it actually gave me Darkwing Duck vibes. Because I am the terror that flaps the night. I am rock and roll that never goes out of style.
Yeah. So the Whiskervilles get ran off by all the ghosts, And, Scrooge doesn't remember his trip to heaven, doesn't remember this vision. So they still know that it's haunted, the McDuck stone. They still don't know where the treasure is at this point. So that, like I said, that'll get brought up in a later chapter to kind of wrap up this story. All right. Lastly, we're going to talk about issue 6, and I really like issue 6. Scrooge ends up in Africa, and he's heard about like the diamond mines and all kinds of stuff down here. So he is here to make his fortune here. And this is where this is called the Terror of the Transvaal. And this takes place 1886 through 1889. And he meets this Afrikaner who betrays him. And at the very last page of the story, we find out this is Flintheart Glomgold, who you'll know from DuckTales is the second richest duck in the world and hates Scrooge McDuck. And everything that Flintheart does, he does through cheating. And so this is where we see that rivalry start. This one has a very fun sequence where Flintheart has been ran out of town, and he meets up with Scrooge, and Scrooge is being nice and takes him in, and Flintheart's like, "Oh, I'll be your guide," and Scrooge's like, "Oh, that's great." And so when Scrooge goes to bed that night, next day he wakes up and everything is gone, everything's been stolen, and he's left out in the jungle with all these wild animals. And again, I say that Scrooge reminds me of Popeye. We see Scrooge fight all the animals barehanded. It's glorious. I love this whole sequence, and he's like, he's not afraid of anything. He just roars back at the lion, and then he tames the lion, and he starts riding it like a horse. And there's a lot of fun scenes where he comes riding back into town on a lion, and again, it's that larger than life legend, like an American folk story, like, oh, Paul Bunyan did this, or Johnny Appleseed did this, and it's just awesome. So, what else? So he comes riding back into town and on the lion, and he tells the farmhand, "Here, take my steed." He goes, "Sure, that's my job." And he freaks out because of the lion. You hear all the screaming and stuff. And he hunts down Glomgold and ends up tarring and feathering him. And then the lion attacks Glomgold. Like I said, a lot of fun. And Glomgold's humiliated at the end. He swears that he will one day get revenge on Scrooge. And the last page mentions that he's making all these enemies, the McVipers, Flintheart Glomgold, the Beagle Boys, the Whiskervilles. So he's having all this success. He's meeting all these friends, but he's also making all these enemies.
Which
go ahead.
Which I think is super cool because, like, I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, this is a kid's comic book, right? But it definitely still has that well, what is it? Kind of that lesson. The Social Network. It was you don't make 5 million friends without making a few enemies. So, like, obviously, even if Scrooge is making an honest living and he's going to get rich honestly, he's still going to make enemies. Because you just always are.
Yeah, and this is where he learns that you can't just trust everybody. Like the recent Superman movie, Superman's trusting everybody for secret identity and everything, and Lois is like, what is wrong with him? You can't just trust everybody. Not everybody thinks and acts like you. Not everybody has the same morals as you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those life lessons you have to learn. And that's what Scrooge learns here, is that you just can't just trust everybody, because people do not have your best interest at heart. They have their best interest at heart. And yeah, I think this is the halfway point of the series. We're gonna read more of it in 2 weeks and finish it up. But I think this is great. There's great life lessons in here about working hard, and I think this is like one of those books that everybody should read. But we'll find out why Disney sucks in 2 weeks. And they have censored this book heavily, and we'll get to that in 2 weeks.
I will say for myself, this is one of those things. You've been talking it up for forever.
Yeah, I gave this book last December, and I said we'll get to this on the show. It's awesome.
And so when we finally get to it, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm like, okay, he grew up with DuckTales. He likes Scrooge McDuck. This is a joint venture. You take some. I'll give some for him. And now I'm like, I'm surprised at how much I actually like this.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's really good.
If you talk to people who like read lots and lots of comics, this one's like always in their top 10 list of like greatest stories of all time. So
which it's not like it's not like a Watchmen. It's not like a Dark Knight Returns. I don't think there is anything seminal about this book. I just think it is super solid, and I think it's just a what is it? A delightful read, if that makes sense. Like you're not gonna get like this isn't the origin of Batman. This is not. It is just stories of Scrooge McDuck's life, and it is just an enjoyable read.
Yeah, and I know they've done DuckTales and stuff, but I'm like, just animate this. Do a 12-part miniseries on Disney Plus and animate this.
Do you think they could get? Do you think that they could get 12 episodes out of this? Because I mean, like these issues are pretty short.
I think so. I think you could.
That second issue was like double the length of every other issue, though. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, that one is pretty long. But yeah, I love these stories, and like I said, the second half we're going to see him eventually get rich and see how money changes a person, and what happens if you start taking the easy route, and how does that corrupt you and stuff. It's going to be a fun read. So
yeah,
that'll be in 2 weeks. Next week we are doing This Is Spinal Tap. The sequel is coming out. I have seen it. Caleb's never seen it, so that'll be a lot of fun. If you don't know what This Is Spinal Tap is a rockumentary, or a mockumentary, I guess I should say, of a fake rock band in the 70s and 80s.
Yes. Huntrix showed this how it's done.
Yeah. If you've seen movies like Best in Show, what was it? The Mighty Winds? Is that what it was called? It's been a while.
I don't know that
one. But a lot of those people made this movie, so it's a lot of this is kind of where a lot of them got their start. So.
And in general, like I'm kind of a big fan of like fake bands. Like I love Huntrix, of course. Gorillaz is in like my top 5. But I grew up with like Josie and the Pussycats, Jem and the Holograms. I was watching Almost Famous before I should have. I was too young to watch that movie when I did. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. Like I said, I've never seen it, but it's definitely been one that I'm like, this is kind of my bag. Why haven't I watched this?
Yeah, it's a slow burn, but it's very funny. And a lot of the references you probably already know just from being alive.
Yeah.
Like the Turn It Up to 11 and stuff is, came from this movie. So that'll be next week's show. Again, check out Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck, but be warned, the newer versions are censored and missing chapters. You want to find the older versions of the story.
Now, if I may, the one that you have given me, Does this one is this one censored or
No. It's
okay?
Yeah, I got the really nice. That was the one I lent you was the first copy I had, and then I've got the really nice 2 hardcover set. The first hardcover is the story, and then the second hardcover is all the bonus side stories.
So, do you know if this is on a Marvel Unlimited?
I don't think so. I don't think, unless it was published by Marvel, it's not on Marvel Unlimited.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask is because, if people are wanting to read it, I would say Marvel Unlimited would be the best place to go, but
I don't think it's on there. No.
If there's censorship, then I'm sure, if it's on what's that?
It's the crucial chapter too that is missing. It's really annoying. We'll get to it in 2 weeks. You'll see. You're like, oh yeah, they kind of needed that chapter. So that's Disney for you.
So yeah, if you read it on like Comixology or anything like that, it'll probably be censored.
Yeah, I think it's chapter 11. If chapter 11 is missing or is only like 2 pages long or something, yeah, it's probably the censored version. And I'll just talk a little bit about it. It's Mombi the zombie, or is it Bombi? Bombi the zombie is in it, and I don't find it offensive, but some people might say, "Oh, those are African stereotypes or something." The way he's drawn.
I did just look up the. I looked it up. I see it. I see what's happening.
You can kind of see it, but it's. I've seen worse. I'll put it that way.
If anything, I don't think it's egregious, so I wouldn't think it'd be like if this was like this. There's no malice in this, so
no, and that's the thing. It's not done with malice.
If anything, this is an accident.
Well, and it's. I mean, if you look at like, and again, we'll talk about this in 2 weeks. Like the Adventures of Tintin, the way characters were depicted there versus this. Like it's an improvement. It is. So and it's kind of like the Mr. Popo and Dragon Ball Z, that whole controversy and all
Jinx
that.
Jinx from Pokemon.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that, but it's annoying.
Brutalitops the magician from Community.
It's annoying, and like I said, we'll talk about that and censorship in 2 weeks. So this is Spinal Tap is next week, and then we'll finish up Scrooge McDuck.
Yep,
and it'll be awesome. So until then, I've been Final Monkey,
and I'm Caleb.
We'll catch you next time in the deep end.
See ya.